Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to see so many familiar faces and also a couple of new ones. That's great. I think that's sort of the thing I like most, maybe, with this project, of course, except for the scope, that we can be so open and have new people joining for each meeting so that we can expand the activities and just do as much as we can with this project. So looking at the agenda, this is what we will be doing for the next 2 hours together, I hope. So I will not be talking that much, which is a very good thing, because I think I've been speaking like since I started out Monday morning. So my voice is getting a bit like whiskyish. We'll hear from Sophie and the European CIRPASS project. That will be great, because we, of course, all need to know about these things. We'll go through the sub-projects, as many as are here today in the meeting. And we also have very important guests today from Metalliska MaReAl, which is really nice because, of course, Metalliska MaReAl is one of the strategic innovation programs behind this project. And in the last call, they wrote about the traceability challenges and how we can address that within the steel and metal sector. So we have 2 presentations, both from Jönköping University, which will be great to hear about for this audience as well. And then we have Hanna, maybe also Hedvig then, from Klimat- and Processindustri, which is a vindväxtmiljö, and also introducing the Västsvenska Kemi- och Materialklustret on the west coast. And there we have a joint intention where we hope to be able to do more of a project building operation, where we have like smaller pre-study projects within Klimatledande, and then we can hopefully make them grow in this conjunction with Trace for Value and the strategic funds that we have from the strategic innovation programs. So we hope to find that collaboration in the shape of a few new projects. And then we'll hear also from Kenneth again. Kenneth joined us this spring and came with a new idea for a project where we should be working on traceability for waste, which is great. So Kenneth is here to give us an update before we close the project, the meeting, when we're approaching 12 o'clock. I'm happy to see, I should also say, Anne Faxir. She's from RISE in Gothenburg, and we just got on the phone. We were talking about support function for the PiiA program. So welcome, Anna, on a very short notice, coming to visit us here in the Trace for Value project. I think that's great. So I hope that you all feel very welcome, and I'll try to switch away from the agenda and say just something else, which I don't know about you, but I'm like living this challenge right now when we look at the impact innovation that several of us are working with. So this is where we are right now, with 17 strategic innovation programs, which are supposed to be transforming into something else and bringing all actors and challenges with them into what we call impact innovation, which is a joint mission by Vinnova, Energimyndigheten and Formas, where we are supposed to address big societal challenges, but also, of course, building on the things we have from the present programs, all the industrial actors and everyone else who might be involved in the innovation system to do something amazing going forward. So, of course, there are lots of new strategic ideas about the new programs. They are supposed to be 3 to 5 in numbers for the first go. And then maybe growing on in numbers as the years pass by. But these are like long programs up to 10 years. We're supposed to be holding on to these societal challenges. I work in one that we call Net Zero Industry through Industrial Symbiosis and Twin Transition, very short and brief. And there I would really like to invite all of you who would be interested in learning more about this initiative. But we should also say there are several others, and I'm sure that several of you are involved. And I hope there is still an opportunity to join several of those proposals and ideas for programs going forward. And of course, I will be happy to share contact information to whatever program you might be interested in. I'll also be happy to welcome supporters to this initiative within Net Zero Industry and Industrial Symbiosis Twin Transition. And one more slide, I think, would be to say, oops, who we are. We have a number of amazing people who are running the show. I am merely a facilitator in this program since we are so many, and a quite huge task to work with traceability in all those different sectors. So the pictures are here and the contact information are on the website. Little extra here, we have Angelica for communications, supported by Josephine. Carita is not here today, but maybe we'll see a bit more of Anne in the program and in this project going forward. And of course, also a little look at the consortium. All of us who are in the project, which is amazing that we're pretty much 65 partners in the project, which is quite rare in a national project. And of course, also a reason for Vinnova to go ahead and fund us from sustainable industry with strategic funds, which is great, I think, a brave thing of them to let us go on this task in this way. Very short also on the international side. I think maybe of course, strong projects that we have right now through Ragn-Sells, maybe Karin will touch upon these, on to decide and reincarnate. We deal quite a bit with ontology. I want to point out the IETS project where we have the International Energy Agency and where we are using that platform to share results from Trace for Value and other related projects. I also want to mention the Green Transition Initiative between Sweden and the US, where we also have the people in the US looking for system pilots, they call it, where we can demonstrate technologies that we have been developing in this project and in others to sort of showcase on the US market. And there we have a few cases already going. But if someone else would be interested, I would be happy to introduce you to that opportunity with the US. And last year we went to Toronto to be part of the Sweden-Canada Innovation Days. So that was a big event for us then to share what we do in this project. There is another Innovation Day in Canada this year, just next week. So we will not be there because we're quite busy now in Sweden, I think, with the impact innovation issue. But then in a few months, we'll have a new Hannover Fair with a new theme, which is energizing a sustainable industry. So maybe that's something that we should talk about, and also with the funding agencies, if we can join forces in any way to spread results also to that kind of market. And that's where I thought I'd stop presenting. And we go back to the agenda, unless we have any comments from the audience so far about special requests for presentations, trips, or questions regarding anything else. I don't see so many hand wavings. Sophie, are we on track? Do we still remember what the project is doing? Do we still agree?
Yeah.
Excellent. Then I think I'll leave the word to you, Sophie.
Yes, so I will present something that's a bit outside of Trace for Value. It's a project that we at Chalmers Industriteknik are a part of. And so I will say, I didn't prepare a slide, but I will say 2 words on Chalmers Industriteknik. We are in the innovation ecosystem of Chalmers, and we are trying to bridge the gap between industry and academic. Not only to Chalmers, but we make a special effort there because it's in the name. And we work in circular economy, material, energy, and applied AI. That is all I will say about us. So Malin, you asked me to talk about this project that's called CIRPASS. I will read the full title one time because aren't you happy that they made an acronym for that? It's 3 lines. CIRPASS stands for Collaborative Initiative for a Standard-Based Digital Product Passport for Stakeholder-Specific Sharing of Product Data for a Circular Economy. I have a 20-minute slide, but a slot, but I'm not sure that I will use all of that. So maybe we take questions and we will see what we do. So it's a European-funded project, and the goal is to prepare the ground for the gradual piloting and deployment of the digital product passport. And I will come back. The first slide after that is what the digital product passport is. And it has focus on electronics, textile, and batteries sectors. It started almost a year ago to the day, so 1st of October last year, 18 months, so until end of March. It's a coordinating and support action, which in practice means that there's a lot of talking. So it's not a lot of implementing. It's desk research, surveys, discussion, and we are 31 partners. And when I say we, I just want to be clear here that Chalmers Industriteknik is not the coordinator of that. It's CIA in France that is doing that. But we are 3 Swedish partners involved in this. I will come back to this at the end. So the definition that we have agreed on in the project on what the digital product passport is, and I will read it and I will give you like a few seconds to digest because it's, again, academics that wrote it, so it's very long, is a structured collection of product-related data with predefined scope and agreed data ownership and access right, conveyed through a unique identifier, and that is accessible via electronic means through a data carrier. So in everyday language, what does that mean? It's an information system where you have where products have an identifier. So this is one item. You have a data carrier that refers to that identifier. That's another item. The product has data that is accessible through that identity carrier, and that data, though, has access that is limited. And now I'm thinking in Swedish, I'm sorry. So these are the parts of that. I will come back a little bit on the different parts after. The goal of this is to enhance sustainable production, extend product lifetime, support customer in making sustainable choice because it would be in principle easier to compare product between each other, enable the transition to circular economy by boosting material and energy efficiency, and support authorities by verifying compliance. I'm sorry, sidebar on KEEP. So I will come back to this later, but in earlier project, for us, we have limited this to 3, and it's basically making the production more, so the first one, the sustainable production, making the material more sustainable and allowing a second, like end of life, easier end of life or second hand market. So it's a bit this year. The main objective of the project is to create an inclusive forum to build a common understanding of this, and the second point, build stakeholder consensus, and that's why there's a lot of discussion. So we had hours of discussion just to come up with that long DPP description. In 3 sectors, as I said, batteries, textiles, and electronics. And here they use loosely the word prototype because it doesn't mean implementation prototype. It means a simple description of what a digital product pass would be, including agreement and suggestion of the aspect that I said at the beginning. The consortium is, as I said, 31 partners, and here you will recognize 3 partners from Sweden. So us, that are in the electronic and RTO box, RISE, that is in the textile RTO box, and GS1 Sweden. So this GS1 Europe, but GS1 Sweden is also involved in this, and this is cross-cutting expertise and standard. So this is how we are arranged, but more the work structure is kind of a matrix because there's several things that are applicable to all the working sectors. So vertically, you have the working sectors, so batteries, electronic, and textile. Horizontally, you have the work package stream, and then I will take them in wrong order. So digital system and framework architecture, this is the how this is done, and it's very technical. So how will the system for the digital product pass will look like? Related to this is work package 4, which is at the top, which is related standard and interoperability. So this is basically the nitty-gritty of how the system of how will be working. So how you can make sure that a digital product passport will be able to be compared, for example. Or if, for example, you have a digital product pass for a battery that gets in another product, for example, in a computer, you need the computer digital product pass will need to be able to pull the data from the battery one. So there needs to be interoperability there. So this is basically the language in which the system will be working, if I can say it like this. And work package 2 then is information architecture, or what is in there. And by this, we mean which data point will be present in the digital product pass. And I will take just a few seconds here. It can be as simple as who is the manufacturer and what kind of component is inside. But this is basically the pre-sale data. You can also think about like basically that the digital product pass will be updated during the product's lifetime. So if, for example, on a phone, if you change the screen, then the digital product, you go to an authorized person, and they can basically change in the digital product pass system for your product. They will change that you have changed the screen, for example, and it was done by an authorized shop. So it can be also all the way to the end, and basically also the second end of life or second hand, basically the people that are doing, for example, the recycling, they will have access to the very detailed information of what kind of material is in the product. So there's different level here. In this point, there's discussion on what should be there, and there's also discussion of what kind of detail, what they call granularity normally. So depending on the type of product, it might make sense to have it on the product level. In some type of products, it might make more sense to have it on a batch level. For example, a water kettle. You probably don't need to have like specific product pass for every specific water kettle because they're all the same, for example. So, and then there's discussion about who should have access to what, because obviously not everyone will have access to everything that's available in there. So this is the 3 level of discussion in that point. CIRPASS is not just these 31 partners, it's also external expert and stakeholder group, the box at the bottom left here. I will come back to this, but if you want to be involved in the project in the next 6 months, the last 6 months of the project, this is where you can get involved. We are also exchanging with other initiatives because, of course, we're not the only project that is about that. So the coordinator has a direct contact with the European Commission. There's also contact with Textile project. The battery pass is a big battery digital product passport project in Germany. So if you're interested in this, you should check them. And there's other initiative and organization. I want to point, this is a Sophie sidebar this time. So the second one on the right, the WBCSD, they have nice documentation for companies. So it's good if you are interested and need a little bit of background. It's a good place to start. I want to talk about the project results. So all the deliverables from the project will be made available at one point or another. At the moment, there are 2 that are available. The first one is benchmark of existing DPP-oriented reference architecture. And what that means is that they made the list of all the projects and companies that are doing DPP. And they basically clustered them depending on how they were working. So it's the how this time, the focus. And they came up with a number of recommendations. And there's a lot, in this one and on the next slide, there's a lot of clarifying this term, making sure that everyone agrees what this means. So when I said earlier, granularity means the level of details, there's also not consensus on this, apparently. So there needs to be some kind of consensus on that. Let me just put myself in do not disturb because it keeps popping in the background and it's annoying. Okay. This is available online, and for those who are interested in this and want to check the data, they have made the 6th recommendation here, published a set of data gathered within CIRPASS. It's been published, so you're more than welcome to check the raw data on this and not just the 90 pages report. The second one is initial set of information requirement to serve as a basis for future discussion. This is the title of the deliverable, but again, in everyday language, what that means is that it's the initial set of potential key data per sector. So what data point would go in the potential in the digital product path for the 3 sectors. And in the, I don't remember how many pages it is, but they have tables per sector of what data would be interesting to have, which data is already mandatory and which data could go in a future digital product path. This one is open for feedback until the end of the week. And again, the recommendations are a lot about clarifying the terms. One of the things I realize now is that I didn't talk about the timeline of all of this because we say digital product path and I didn't really mention why we're talking about this. So it's mentioned in the ESPR that was published at the last year. And the timeline for this will be that it will be implemented through a series of delegated acts. And the first one will be on batteries. That's why there's a lot of push on batteries. And we're talking about 2.5 years from now or something like that. And electronics and textile are on the priority list for after that. So there's a lot of effort at the moment to get this thing working. The interoperability part, so getting companies to share their data and that their standard system in-house is talking with the other standard system in-house in a language that they can understand, this is a big part of the work. On the CIRPASS webpage, you have fact sheets. As I said, the 2 deliverables that I talked about are there. And there's also a FAQ, which has a lot of question and answer. Every time that we have a question, I think they put the answer there. So it's very extensive if you're interested in this. As I said, there's ways to get involved. We have consultation and events. We have a stakeholder community, so you are welcome to go on the website, and we have a newsletter as well. I know it's newsletter, everyone has newsletter, but this is how the world is working, sorry. So I invite you to subscribe to this. I added 2 slides just to tell you that this is not the end of the story. So what comes next, number 1, it's closed, so it's not an invitation to participate, it's just an information point. So there will be a project on the implementation of a digital product path for batteries that is financed by the European Commission. The call closed last week, about 10 days ago. So the project should start Q2 next year or something like that. This is specifically for batteries, and the budget is 8 million financing, 8 million in kind. And just to be clear, it's euro. So it's a huge pot of money to get this moving faster. This is a European project. And there's another call that closed yesterday, which is 2 other supply chains, so not battery, but not specified what. And there the budget is 6 million plus 6 million, again, euro, so a little bit less. So CIRPASS is closing in March, and there will be 2 other projects, kind of mega projects that will tackle this. But this time we're talking about implementation. So it would be much more hands-on work than what we have been doing. That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Sophie. Like, I mean, my question to you is to be like, how do you sleep at night? This seems like a very complex matter to work with.
Yes. So in the 31 partners, I can stop the sharing. In the 31 partners, they are experts in all of these small boxes. So there are people that have more the overview, but when we have meetings, it's amazing to see how much knowledge in a very specific topic people have. But it takes all of this. So I think this is very good. But it's the same. I mean, when I think of this is the same thing that I think of Trace for Value. There is a lot in that kind of traceability and digital product pass topic. There's a lot to be said about collaboration. It will not happen with just one or two companies on the side. It will happen through these big projects that are coordinated and many people talking together.
And the stakeholders, are they interested in like the politics around this, or are they really interested in getting this right and understanding it because of their own reasons for their own organizations? Or
I think it's varied a lot. I remember seeing a plot of what the background was, but I think it's a lot. There's a lot of academics. There's a lot of SMEs that want to prepare themselves and want to kind of keep up with what's happening. So I think it's a lot that, if I remember correctly.
Because that would be the next question, of course, and all of you, of course, also feel free to ask Sophie for her expertise here. But the readiness for this, could you say something about the state of readiness in the network where you are in Sweden, for example?
I will not answer that. I will tell you to keep up listening and listen to Karin from CIS later that will answer that question. Because we have a local, national project that is more to that.
That's perfect.
And I think I will let her take that.
That's very nice of you not to take away all the the glory for that. That's
Thanks.
Excellent. Do we have more questions for Sophie right now? Shout out or raise a digital hand. Not right now. Impressed and thankful for your work in CIRPASS, of course. Thank you, Sophie. Then looking out for Karin. Are you still with us, Karin? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Where are you today?
I'm home today, not out on site.
That is somewhere in Stockholm, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I am. So I will share my presentation with you. Just one moment. Oh, can you see my screen? Yeah, great. So hi everyone, my name is Karin Wannerberg and I'm a project manager at Ragn-Sells. And in this Trace for Value project, we have a sub-project called Digital Twins in Circular Value Networks. See here. Yes, and I just wanted to, before I start talking about our project, I just wanted to say that we have a quote here that I think is very good to mention, that waste is material without an identity, and that's what we try to address in this project. We think that if material has an identity and we know what it is, we can use it very wisely. And we also think we need to think differently to enable circular economy than we do today. And I will go into this a bit more in minutes. So some challenges that we see to scale circular economy, because that is what we think we need to do. We need to scale circular economy, not only enable it in small scale. And we think data is a very important part of this. And data are in many cases industry specific. Data is often product-centric and not resource-centric. We have traceability in parts of the value chains, not in the whole ecosystem or in the whole value network. And it's limited cross-industry collaboration on data. And Sophie was also mentioning this. We need to collaborate in order to enable this. So our sub-project is a feasibility study. It will end before the summer next year. We are 7 partners. It's Linköping's Universitet who are responsible to develop an ontology to create an infrastructure and information model to enable data sharing between all the actors. We have Ekerby Science, that is a coordinator. Ragn-Sells, we are here. We are a waste management company, want to enable circular solutions. We have Lucia Tekniska Universitet that's looking for a circular business model. A white architect who are helping us with a BIM model and looking at how to extract information from a BIM. Saint-Gobain, that's producing flat glass that I will just talk shortly about in the next slide, and Isover, that's producing glass wool. And the goal we have in this project is to create a circular value network for flat glass. So we have limited this to a construction case looking at flat glass. And we will develop ontologies that enable semantic interoperability, which is a very nice word I hear more and more, and decentralized data sharing between actors and computers. So this is very important. We need to share data between both humans and machines, and do this, of course, in a safe way. Yes, shortly, maybe I should just mention what you mentioned before, Malin. We also have 2 European projects onto the side that are they are looking at these ontologies for 3 different industries. They're looking at textiles, electronics, and construction case. They are using the same type of approach as we are doing here. And we also have a European Horizon project, Reincarnate, where we look at how to enable circular material flows with ontologies, of course, as well in the construction sector. And both of these are Europe Horizon projects. And if we look at flat glass, Saint-Gobain and Ragn-Sells has a cooperation where we upcycle flat glass. We keep the high quality as we have in our windows, which is the highest quality of glass we have today. And we do this since we want to decrease the amount of material that ends up in landfill or being downcycled. We want to keep the high quality. And of course, to decrease the amount of virgin resources that we take out every year. And this also has a very positive effect on the emissions. We can decrease the CO2 emissions with 54% by using this process. And just very shortly, if we look at the ecosystem of flat glass, we have different phases of flat glass. We have very many different actors here. That is on the screen here. We also have a lot of different activities that we have identified. And we have a lot of information and data that needs to be shared between these actors in order to proceed with their activities. So this was the start of our project. We need to identify all these actors, activities, and what the requirements are in these different phases. And to do that, we have developed an ontology in order to enable data sharing between all those actors and machines that we are using. Yes, and we have, like I said, we have some requirements from the industry. In this case, it's Saint-Gobain that has said, this is the requirements we have on the material in our process that we need to fulfill. We have some quality assurance that needs to be assured before sending some material to Saint-Gobain that they can use in their production. We have data collection from inventory and also from a BIM model that we use to get more information that we need in this flow. So jumping into the ontology is for this value network. This is a very, it's she just showing you how we have identified different things in this ontology that's very important to collect. So we have the dismounting, we also have a structure of the window, and we have material in the window. So this is our approach to build the ontology and the information model in order to identify exactly what information needs to be collected for the circular value network. And if you are more interested in the ontology, we have Eva Blomqvist, who's a professor at Linköping Universitet. She's a star in this. So please let me know if you have more like detailed questions on the ontology, and she can answer you very well. But what we use this for is actually to do some decision making in the process. So we collect all this information that is uses the ontology to be collected in the right way, in the right unit. And what we use then is requirements to be able to say if we have a recyclable window that can be recycled from flat glass to flat glass, or maybe if we have windows that needs to be partly recyclable or downcycled, maybe to bottles. And we also use it to identify if we have non-recyclable windows, maybe including hazardous material. So we collect information from an inventory and the BIM model, collecting it using the ontology, of course, and tools. And from this we can, we hope to extract information, for example, to tender documents. How much of the windows that we look at in the inventory can we recycle or downcycle or needs to go to the landfill? So we can do estimations based on the ontology. So this is basically where we are right now in the project. And we are developing this to see also more what kind of services we can build upon the ontology and the structure that we develop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karin. But are you really leaving the project towards summer? Are you sure?
We'll see. That's the plan right now. But yeah, of course, we are of course thinking how we can continue this work in different ways, and maybe look at other use cases, maybe, and of course developing the ontology.
That sounds securing, because for all of you who are not in the project details, so the project is running until December 2024. But we're all doing our best to attract more funding and partners to sort of add on new sub-projects as we go along, so that this would turn into a little portfolio or a little program of its own, so that we can continue and build on the results that we have. So I'm of course very, very sad if we have people leaving. And
we of course hope we can do, but I mean this specific sub-project is planned to end by mid 2024.
You're all very quick. And also we had a pre-study from Skogsindustrierna, which was ready already in May this year, I think. So they have sort of been wandering off to another program to do more stuff there, a strategic initiative within Smart Built, which is also great, of course, to stay within the consortium. More questions to Karin. This is also admirable work, I think, with the complexity that you're at, but also getting very practical, and you can actually do things here and reduce CO2 emissions and recycle things.
Yeah, we hope to be very practical by the end of the project, and really show something, and the potential with the working with ontology and semantic interoperability. It's very complex, but also very, very exciting.
Are you also looking for like more partners for initiatives to come, or how is your
Of course, we always look for partners where we can do an interesting collaboration, of course. And we really, really want to like progress the work with the ontology, since if only we use it or this small ecosystem uses it, it doesn't really scale. We need to be able to build upon and extend the amount of actors using this way of working and the ontology and the way of collecting data and sharing data. So of course we look for partners how to do this.
And of course, I mean, so that's the main reason for us all to meet over these sort of traditional industry borders in this project, that we can actually learn from each other a bit.
Yes, and that's really important. And like you say, and Sophie and I mentioned before, we need to do this together. We can't sit on our side developing this and think it will scale. We need to collaborate. And I mean, if anyone has an idea that wants to discuss, please reach out to me and we can see like what possibilities.
That's super. Thank you so much, Karin.
Thank you.
And then we'll look out for some more sharing, right, Jenny?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Let me see. I'm going to share my screen as a start. Here we go. I hope you can see my screen.
We see your screen.
Excellent. Here we go.
So
yes, I'm Jenny Wärn, and I'm here to talk about our project or sub-project to Trace for Value related to digital product passport in textiles. And just as now Sophie gave this super nice introduction to what is a DPP, then I've just skimmed this very, very rapidly. But it is, as Sophie, as you mentioned, it's to encourage the sustainable production, enable transition to circular economy, and help authorities to verify this compliance, and so on. But it is built on the same foundation as the CIRPASS initiative. But what we try to do now in Trace for Value is to already now, despite not all the details, all the requirements are not in place, we would like to try this out in practice and see what do we learn along the way. So why do we do this in textile at all? Let me see. There we go. So as per right now, there is a challenge within the textile industry, and the product was doubled between 2000 and 2015, and we know that has been increased even more. And the plan and estimation was this to increase between 63 and 100% between 15 and 23. So we know also that there is 11 kilos of clothes that's discarded by a random person in Europe on a yearly basis, and every second there is one truckload discarded textile products. Many of this is ending up in Africa or South America, and it's really starting to be acknowledged as a climate change problem, both from an environmental point of view, but also from a social point of view. So what we why then digital product passport within the textiles, and what is this really? So what we're looking for and what we are now to build in practice is that you could scan with a cell phone or your mobile phone. You could scan a QR code and or any other physical identifier, but as per now, based on the directions, requirements that has been shared so far, it looks like it's going to be a QR code. And this QR code is on the care label, stitched to a physical product, a t-shirt as an example. So when you scan that one, there is the architecture or the technical solution behind is that you should then be able to receive the product information, material, supply chain, environmental, social data, various of attributes and parameters relevant for this product. But there's also, as Sophie is mentioning, there's not completely clear of which information to be shown to which stakeholders and how should the system identify which stakeholders is actually scanning the QR. So again, there's a lot of areas to be identified in the coming future, how to be able to solve this from a technical point of view. But we take one step at a time, and I think we will do a lot of learnings along the way anyhow. So the outcome of this project here, the goal for our pilot is to build one of the first versions of a DPP in the textile. And we're going to do this in practice. We're going to have 3 textile products. It's from 2 of the partners to the project. MaReAl is one partner who will, I think it's a jumper or a sweatshirt, and then CIRPASS will put this QR code to a kid's sweatshirt and a kid's trousers. And we will have this for around 1,000 products, and these products to be available in store for end consumers to scan and get this information. So I think it's super exciting because in January, February, this is actually going to be live for end consumers. And we are defining and stitching this care label to the garments as we speak. So outcome for the brands, in this case MaReAl and CIRPASS, they are investing a lot in identifying internally what is the required data. Where is it located in the structure? Do they have everything? How can we make it available? So what infrastructure is required? Prepare the business and all other value chains within their companies for a DPP. And then therewith prepare for the future legislation. And what we hope to see the outcome from the authorities is that, and we're really looking forward to share our insights in what's the operational challenging implementing this, what's the challenge that we will run into, what's the questions, what's the requirements to be clarified on authority or e-commission level for us to facilitate for this to scale and go live in a couple of years. And also see the input, identify the data needs of input. And a little bit touch base then on the CIRPASS project, because of course our work is very much following CIRPASS and the outcome and build up on information from CIRPASS. But we have identified already now that there is some challenges in the data related to textile. How should we interpret that? How should that be used? How should we fulfill even mandatory? Is this data available in textile industry as per today? So it's really good to have this opportunity for us and for the brands to really look into the detail in find this data in reality. So we are working in what we have as per now, and then our insights will be shared along the way. I think I touched base this already in the last slide. We will provide each product with a unique ID, and we are building that on top of GS1 standardizations. And every single of these 1,000 garments will have a unique ID per garment based on the serialized GTIN. And the reason for why it needs to be unique is not necessarily pre-sales, but post-sales, when this is going into the circular economy, and also how the intention here is to be able to follow on each single garment what will be the resell, the repair, the reuse of this garment, and that's why we'll have that on unique level. We'll attach a QR code in the care label together with 2 other partners in the project, Rudholm and Trimco, that is working together already as per today with Kappahl and MaReAl. So they create this unique QR code for the garments. They produce them, and in the Kappahl and MaReAl facilities, it's going to be stitched to a number of products. And this ID of this QR code is then linked to data sheets that we at TrusTrace is managing. And then we will connect information for that specific QR code based on a decentralized data storage system. And I'll touch base that a little bit later, what that means. And what we have done so far then, so we have now, since in the last 6-8 months, then we have decided on and worked with what data should be prioritized. What is the definition of data? What's the source of the data? And the outcome of that was a data protocol, or it is a data protocol that we released to public. I think it's 2 weeks ago. And you can access it or download this one either from Trace for Value or TrusTrace webpage. Please do that. And if you are in this area or any other area, please do and see and provide also questions and feedback on what you think it's in there. And we are using available standards. This is a bit of a challenge because the standards is not yet defined, but in cooperation with GS1 and the Swedish Institute of Standards, we are building based on best knowledge as per today. And now to the tricky thing that are ongoing as we speak. It's this, how do we build the right architecture and infrastructure, both to collect and link and share this data. And I will also touch base that in the end of the presentation of how we approach it as per today. And we're also then creating a consumer interface to be visible for end consumer when scanning the QR code. So just with care of time as well, this is just a sample of the main areas and the groups in the data protocol. There is how many groups? There is 11 groups, I think. 9 groups, we ended up. 9 groups with a number of subset of data for each of these groups. And you can also see here everyone that's been involved in providing input for this. And in total then we have 97 data attributes that's prioritized for the data protocol. Not all of them will be able to fulfill in this, or fulfill, I should say, we don't have data to showcase all these attributes as per today due to limited data available by the brands. And also that some of these data attributes is related to the circularity area, and that will happen post-sales. So as per today, we are focusing with a update by January on the pre-sales activity, and we'll see after January how we continue this project, how much we also could possibly involve pre-sales circularity aspects. So as per today, this is our time plan, sort of say. We have prioritized the data need. We have designed the idea of the technical architecture. We released the data protocol 2 weeks back, and as we speak, we are building and implementing this the architecture by building this in practice, and we have also defined a very, I think it's very beautiful interface for the end consumers, showcasing the data. In scope, as per today, we also have a master thesis to be done by end of this year, and we will pilot this in practice on real garments available in store for Marimekko and Kappahl by it's say January, maybe they will be in store by February, but the technical solution to be ready ahead of that. So just finally then, I'll just quickly take you through the architecture that we are looking for. So let's see if I'll just fill this up with everything and talk you through. So we have the scanning of the QR code, and what's going to happen in the background then is that this interface will send a request to a thing we call a resolver, or the definition is a resolver. I would like to explain this as a library of URLs. So the response from this resolver is, where can I find the data? And why do we have this on top? Yes, because the strong recommendation is that DPP should be based on a decentralized architecture, meaning that we have several data sources and not only one data source to fetch this interface with information. And that is, of course, to be able to also have and add on additional partners when the circularity piece is starting. But so the interface will know where can I find the data, and via API it's requesting and collecting this from various data source. The data source available for the pilot will be the TrusTrace platform, and the TrusTrace platform. So TrusTrace core is we are expert in supply chain traceability of in the textile area or the fashion industry. So that's why we will actually this is technically 2 different platforms, but we will request data from our own platform because that will gonna hold for Kappahl, that's gonna hold information. The other data source is actually spreadsheets with additional information uploaded by MaReAl and Kappahl. It could have been their PLM or ERP system, but in the scope of this pilot, they decided not to build the APIs for their other sources they could have. So as we speak, and I think this is also good that we include this piloting, because there will be small and medium brands in the future that will not be able to fetch data from their own systems, but there will be most likely a need for some kind of data repository providers in this system. And as time goes, but of course, I mean, we should have or we will have the ability to interface directly with brands' systems. There could also be various certification bodies when they are ready to do a digital sharing data digitally, or any actors in the circular area. So there, I think I stop just sharing the last slide of who's involved. So the piloting brands, MaReAl and CIRPASS, super exciting to have them in the pilot. And what we can see is that they really take the opportunity not just to provide data and QR codes for a number of products, but also looking into how can this data collection facilitate for them to change and improve their business model and operations within the companies. When they have this data, it's not only to show to end consumers, it's only how can they elaborate and improve their and provide their more sustainability aspects to the design of their products. So I think I'll just take a pause there and ask if there's any questions.
How will it look for the consumers? Asks Daniel.
Yes,
I see that already.
we are. Yes, indeed. We haven't decided not to release that yet, just because it's ongoing as we speak. We are touching on the final design elements as we speak. But it will be more a consumer app. It will look like you'll scan and you will have a picture of the garment, and then you will have expandable windows below of where you can find this information based in the same structure as the data protocol. You will have information of the supply chain involved. You will have information about material, circularity aspects, and so on. But as soon as we have a little bit more confirmed, I will be able to then also share the look and feel of the interface.
To be continued in the next open meeting, right?
I hope
in
so,
December,
and
then.
if not, then at least as soon as we do the release in early next year.
Perfect. I'm wondering now. Well, I mean, you're chased by journalists now, right?
Yes,
For your data protocol.
Indeed. So we released the data protocol, and then we have for sure got a very good response and interest from media. A lot of supply chain and textile magazines is reaching out, and I think that's what's really good with that is that actually this initiative that Trace for Value is now having is that it's embraced and it's providing us the opportunity to share with the wider audience in the fashion industry. It's time to get started.
I think it's a beautiful demonstrator that this is actually happening now, and it will sort of, the brands need to engage, and consumers will also be able to act on it.
Indeed, and even, I mean, yes, we have challenging in exactly how should the technical solution look like and how should that act with so many actors and stakeholders involved. Not everything is clear, but what is clear is that to a 95%, we know what data attributes should be in there. And it's time for the brands, and they start to, slowly wake up in this area. How do I access these data points to be filled with DPP? So I'm really glad that it's, for the sake of sustainability in fashion industry, I'm really happy that this start to be a growing topic within many brands.
Super cool. And of course, then my final question is where do we meet for this release of those garments that will be traced? So when these will be collector items, right?
Exactly.
Tell us later. Where can we sort of stand in line to make sure
indeed. I will tell you as soon as I know. So I'm working with a couple of MaReAl. So really, in which stores will this be placed? This garment. Because I would be first in line to invest in anyone, so for sure. But the idea is also to in January have an event with this group and whoever would like to join, where we showcase the solution.
That sounds great. That's something to look forward to. Thank you so much, Jenny. And there is a hand up from Anne. We have a short question from Anne.
Yes, I have a short question. Do you also consider the second-hand value? Because we know now you're talking about the new production, I assume. And then what about the aftermarket, so to say? Is it also going to be in the database?
So the attributes is reflecting second life or post-sales data adding to the garments. The tricky thing here is that, and TrusTrace is also involved in a separate project with Resource called CPLM, where we are looking into the opportunity for a business model and also in practice solution. So there is a system that we built which is actually connecting a brand, Filippa K, together with a repair studio, Fujitex. And how can we manage that flow of circularity in practice? The report of the outcome and report of that project is available from next week. But it is a bit tricky here because the circularity aspects and business models and also the availability of repair opportunities in the industry and in the market is on a very, very early stage. So we don't know how much we will be able to proceed on this in the coming 6-12 months, because as per now, the circularity infrastructure and business opportunity and business model by the brands needs first to be sort of established. Because it's not too much to base building this from digitalizing that system. There is too many open questions yet how that should look like. But we have run a pilot in this area. I can share the report and maybe Malin can distribute that report.
I think you're getting popular here, Jenny. We're getting more questions. Could you maybe, if you want to share your email or information, contact information in the chat? And I think you have some more coming from Daniel there. And then, because we need to move into metals now.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you so much. Then I think we go away to Jönköping University, right? Yes. Lucia, welcome so much. How nice to have you here today in this meeting.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You have been listening for a while, right?
Yes.
Getting the hang of the project.
Yes, that's very interesting. We will look into a different kind of circularity, I guess, with the next two projects. While I share, While I share my screen, I can maybe say that I'm Lucia Lattanzi and I'm a postdoc at Jönköping University. And today I will present you this, what we call MaReAl project. So it's a project within Metalliska material and it's about manufacturing of automotive brake discs using an aluminium-based composite from recycled aluminium silicon alloys. So as you can see from the partners, this kind of research is very applied research, very close to industry, and we have different parts of the automotive industry and in general aluminium world. Where does this project come from? So the project looks into lightweight brake disc for electric vehicles and internal combustion engine vehicles by using this aluminium-based composite material, which is a very valid candidate to substitute heavy metals. And the reason is, among others, among sustainability in general, reducing the weight of the cars to reduce consumption and emissions, is also the upcoming electrification of vehicles, which changes the braking system in the vehicle itself. So having a different kind of braking, it means that we are using less mechanical braking, but we need it to be with a very high performance nevertheless, and especially in emergency cases. So there is also a safety issue connected to this. And then looking instead from a societal point of view, we have sustainability requirements that are shaping new standards and regulations, which are evolving to meet these new demands. For one example is the Euro 7 that will tackle for the first time non-exhaust emission from vehicles, so not only from the engine, but also for the brake discs themselves. So in this project, we will look into taking one more step towards sustainability and using one of the advantages of aluminium, that is that you can recycle it and obtain the same properties as virgin aluminium. So the idea is to use recycled alloys in the production of this composite material, and then even further check if it is possible to recycle the composite itself on the end of life of the product. So imagining that in the future, when all the electric cars having this kind of brake disc will reach the end of life, we will have a flux of this material coming back, and how to deal with it in order to retain its value and also do not affect the value of the other aluminium alloys. So the methods that we will use is to have a complete material characterization. So we will look into mechanical testing, thermophysical properties, so looking into different kind of properties of the metal to be sure that it meets the requirements for the brake disc. Look into different fraction of recycled aluminium to see where the best possibilities are. And then end the project hopefully with the component validation of the brake disc itself. So the contribution to the area by this project is to increase the knowledge on aluminium composite and the possibility of using recycled alloys for their production, the effect of these recycled alloys on the product, on the properties and on the production of such composites, and then hopefully also increase a little bit of knowledge about the possibility of recycling the composite material itself, which is a challenge. I will share just briefly some of the preliminary results of what has been going on so far. The project will end in 2025, but we have some promising properties. So as I mentioned, we checked into different kind of properties, so mechanical properties to see if there is the strength necessary for the brake disc, thermal conductivity, so how heat is managed within the component. This up here is wear resistance, so how the durability works in case of hard braking. And also, since we are material scientists, how the microstructure looks like. So I say that is promising, that those preliminary results are promising using 100% of recycled alloy for the matrix, is because we see a little decrease, for example, in the thermal conductivity, which is around 15 to 18%, but compared to gray cast iron, which is the traditional material that we are trying to substitute, is still much higher properties, so very positive effect in that. So it means that it's still a possible solution to use this kind of material. We are still improving the current solution. That's the idea. As per the mechanical properties at increasing temperature, also we see a very little decrease of the mechanical properties using recycled alloy within 10%. So it shouldn't be. We were very surprised to see this kind of results, so it is promising, but we look forward to test the real component. This was a test at laboratory scale. Of course, only the real component will give us all the answers, but still it's a promising result to move on. And similar, we saw that they have a similar behavior in terms of durability, so that also gives us good hope to move to the component validation. I was very quick, so I thank you for listening. And if you have any question, please feel free to reach out.
I was indeed very quick. On the agenda then. That's great. Your partners, do you think they could be, could they benefit from being like both in your product and see what we do in this product with traceability?
I think so. I think it would be of interest to see traceability in other sectors and not only in the metal one.
So if you have ideas here, we're of course very open to share, and I guess that looking at the key product later, that could also be another connection.
I will share the idea for sure.
Perfect. That's great. That's great. And I will continue discussing with Metalliska MaReAl, of course, in the program office with Gert and Helena. Thank you so much.
Thank
Should
you
we-
very much for having me.
Welcome, Toni, to take over the screen.
Thank you. I will just see that I can share the correct screen as well.
That looks good.
That looks good. Thank you for inviting me. I will present the project that ended last year, but that is the idea of this, so it's good to present what we have done. My name is Toni Bogdanoff. I'm also working at Jönköping University. And in this project, we had partners from the beginning of the casting process until the final component. So we are following the whole trend. And the idea of the project was to improve the melting operation to produce higher performance aluminium components. And this is a challenge. So because measuring the melt quality, because cast aluminium is having a lot of different microstructural features, and it also has a lot of defects comparing to wrought aluminium that is much more easier to predict. So we have to think about a lot of local variation that we have inside the same component. And if we look on the screen, we find a lot of defects, and that is known that it will degrade the properties of the material. And what we want to do in this project is actually to trace where the damage of the melt appears. So we try to trace what is happening during the process. And to do this, we did a big literature survey and understood that we have to investigate everything, and that is not possible because in 3 years it's not possible to do all of this. So we decided to focus on some part. And since recyclable aluminium is a really good candidate for lowering carbon dioxide footprint, that is one way. We know that all the industry that we work with use internal recycling, so we have to understand what is happening with that. We need to understand what is happening when we melt the aluminium, and then what happens when we do different magic treatment in the foundry to actually improve the properties of the material. And in this industry, we look a lot about how to transfer the melt. And the first challenge that we actually appeared was how should we measure the molten aluminium? Because molten aluminium has a temperature of 650 degrees, and it's not so easy to actually say how good is the melt by just looking at it. Because what we will find is that we have porosities that can be detected. It's like holes inside the material. We can measure intermetallic phases, how they will influence. Oxides, much more difficult to detect. And hydrogen we can measure. But according to previous work at the university, we know that tensile testing is the best technique. So we try to go from that and see other techniques, how they will influence, compare it to the tensile testing. So what we wanted to do is to actually use the most common alloy in the high pressure die casting industry, that is a 46,000 alloy. And we decided to have a lot of different techniques to actually validate the melt quality. So we decided the tensile because that is known that will show all damage in the melt. We use a test called reduced pressure test because that is the most common test that the industry is using. We also look about how the metal flows and measuring hydrogen inside the melt. And if we look on this reduced pressure test, we actually let the material solidify in air and under a reduced pressure. So if we have defects in the material, according to literature, they will open up like holes in the material, so we can compare them. And during this project, one good thing happened to me, but maybe not to Sweden, because we got an energy crisis in Sweden. So we could actually see how this influenced the energy consumption in the foundry. So when we go to the result, so this is on a level that we can see, and the easiest way to show the result is with this reduced pressure test that looks like a cheese. So if we start when we melt the material, it looks like a cheese in the material. We can convert this to the mechanical properties, and then we transfer the melt one more time. And what we see in this case is that we don't see a big change. And then we do what they do in the industry, this magic treatment. And Then the industry thinks that we actually have a really good material because we don't have any holes in the material. But what we can see in the mechanical properties is that the mechanical properties are the same. Then sadly, the industry will pour the melt one more time and we will get a degradation in the properties again. And so we were a little bit interested in what is happening. So we use different models. We actually can see with the mechanical properties how the material properties change or how the melt change. So if we instead use the Weibull analysis as a technique for looking on the probability function, we see that if we pour it one more time, if we shift all the values to the left, we will degrade the melt. So we can see that we are degrading the melt by pouring it. Then we do this magic treatment that the industry is doing, but we don't see any change at all in the mechanical properties. And then we pour it one more time and we clearly see that we degrade the melt again. So the question is, what is this degassing, cleaning of the melt, this magic process doing to the material? So we investigated this in a real live production, and what we could find was that we tested a cast component with or without this magic treatment. And what we see is that we have the same properties. And the interesting part of this one was when we are looking and removing this, we could save a lot of energy. Yes, by removing one step in the production, because the production is that you cast a component that weighs 4 kilos. You have a cycle time of around 2 minutes and you refill 400 kilos per hour. This actually means that you can reduce for one casting furnace 124,000 kilowatt hour. And the foundry that I'm working with have 47. And during the energy crisis, we can see a rather big improvement. And moreover, if we calculate this, we can see directly that this is equivalent to 1.7 gram CO2 emissions per kilogram casted metals. So, and this is the big outcome that is actually how we can trace the metal, how it degrades, how it changes to the final product, and how we can actually reduce the energy consumption. And also in this case, it will reduce the cost of the company as well. So the outcome is that this can be directly implemented in the production without doing anything. And all foundries that working with these alloys, that is 80% of all aluminium foundry in Sweden. And we can then reduce the CO2 emission with this change. And it will reduce the cost, and we have a lot of publications. And as a future work, we got more projects out of this because we see that we can save more energy by doing other change that follow the trace of the metal in the process of an aluminium foundry. I think I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a great result from the project, and maybe a bit unexpected due to the energy crisis.
Yes, since the energy, if we take it like this, the aluminium foundry, the energy has not been a problem for them because they use so much. And as long as the price was low, they didn't bother. But now everybody has to bother about the cost of the energy. So.
And then you also reduce the CO2. That's great. And of course, I have to recommend everyone who hasn't been to that amazing lab of yours in Jönköping to go for a study visit. That's going to be a great playground for all the people in the university and for the students, of course.
Yes.
Any questions like that to Toni? And of course, both of you, Lucia and Toni, if you want to add your contact information in the chat, that would be wonderful. If somebody would like to reach out after the meeting. We thank you so much, both of you, for coming here all the way from Metalliska MaReAl in Jönköping. And then we move on to Karin, who will give us an update about how the somewhat smaller Trust for Value project is doing. Welcome, Karin.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to talk to you a little bit about trust for value, policy for a sustainable industry. My name is Karin Vestlund Ekerby and I work at the Swedish Institute for Standards. Okay. Trust for value. The project is led by Chalmers Industriteknik. You already heard this, Sophie talking here earlier. She's my boss here. The other project partners are GS1 Sweden, RISE Sweden. We are, of course, within, and TCO Development, QCM, and X Foundation. And the purpose of this project is to gather strength in the field of traceability by increasing organizations' knowledge and understanding of how data generated in the value chain can be used to meet the traceability requirements of existing and future legislation, and how this will affect their operation upstream as well as downstream. And first, we had I will talk to you today about the work package 1, mapping target group and their needs. We have more work packages that we might want to share with you later on, but this first we did 10 rather diverse organizations throughout the value chain were interviewed with semi-structured interviewing regarding their state of knowledge on traceability and information sharing. And subsequently, a survey was sent out via the project partners' newsletters. And we did that to have a relatively widespread outreach. And we got 25 organizations that responded to this questionnaire. And some learnings. Many organizations are not aware that authorities see traceability as an increasingly important issue, for example, in reaching a circular economy. Organizations, they have adapted to the existing requirements, but do not really see how to tackle future requirements. And all but one of the interviewees had heard of a DPP, the Digital Product Passports. And the interviewees sees a need for easier information transfer between different actors. Many companies have internal systems, but find it difficult to transfer data in a simple way. So automated systems appear to be missing. We got very few responses to the survey, and we interpret this as a generally low awareness. A third of the respondents in this survey, they judged that they had high or very high level of knowledge about traceability within the organization. A third believed the competence was around average or varied within the organization. And a third judged that the organization had low or very low knowledge about traceability and information sharing. 20 out of the 25 respondents lacked information about materials or input. They lacked information from their sources, I can say. And 4/5 said that they would benefit from being able to track their project throughout the supply chain, downstream then, but are unable to do so today. The organization want to know what to report and in what format. In the survey, organization said that they mainly lack time for implementation, closely followed by financial resources to invest in new technology to meet the coming requirements for better traceability. So knowledge boost in traceability is necessary to strengthen Swedish competitiveness. we see that the organizations that now not yet are digitized need to start as a first step. Supply chains are usually very complex, and it is an administrative challenge to have full control of the main flow. But in addition, there can also be secondary and residual flows. We also believe that organizations need to collaborate on this issue, as it's not easy to solve on your own. Furthermore, the authorities need to design the requirements so that existing systems work and can be used. A common terminology, which we have heard already today, or at least an ability for different systems to talk to each other, will be important. There is a need, we found, for basic training effort that can be given widely to all organizations, and this is our aim, to give some of that knowledge in our next work package. So we have many organizations in this project that we have heard from today, and we will try to use this to build the Swedish competitiveness in our next work package. And this report that we have made will be available at the home page of Trace for Value under our sub-project, what do you say, sub-project page. So
that's great. So this was actually another call where we put together partners from the consortium from Trace for Value and applied for a bit of more money to work on the policy, where we think it's important to do something together here with those partners who have that focus on standardization and what we need to do this collaborative work. So that's great that we have a little bit of extra effort there. And exciting, of course, to see what we can share by the end of the project, aiming still to raise the awareness level and knowledge level and see which kind of like roles in the companies need to know what to be able to act on these upcoming regulations.
Yes, we thought that the level of knowledge were higher than it actually, we think now that it is not so high.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we are in the ground level, I guess.
So we can still do something to contribute here. That's great. Thank you so much, Karin. So should we switch to your boss? Did you say, Karin?
Yeah.
Calling Sophie.
Oh my God, don't call me that. I want to just add two things. The first one is that Trust for Value, the current end date is December 2023. We want to extend 1 quarter to make sure that we are creating nice content and promoting it in a good way. The second thing I want to add is that Tillväxtverket has published a similar report on SME and how they will be affected with digital product pass, roughly at the same time as we came with our conclusion as well. And they had the same conclusion as us, that the general level is quite low. So it's not just us that said that. The general consensus is this. I see the time, so I prepared like 15 slides and I will go through 4.
Right, we called for you when we need some speed, right?
No, I will not scroll through. I will try to make it shorter. I can say
at the beginning. Yes.
I can say that we had the open meeting for Just Keep at the beginning of September, and we didn't record it, but the slides have been published on the event webpage. So if you want to have more details on the project than what I would give today, you can at least have access to the pictures there. KEEP is standing for Keep Your Electronic and Electrical Product, and it's a traceability system for that. It's coordinated then by Chalmers Industriteknik, and some of the work packages are led also by Boyd, so it's a joint effort. Boyd was at the beginning of the project part of the CIT family, but has left the nest. The project is, we had as a end date December 2023, but we have prolonged again 1 quarter. Yes, this is the picture that I'm always showing, and I will show it again. Just this is a crude timeline showing the European Green Deal. This is the first time that they talked about the digital product pass and on the EU level, and just to show that the KEEP is kind of, it's a state finance project, and it's KEEP, we removed the 3 because you don't want to have the number all the time, but it's like the 3rd phase. So in the pre-study, it was a lot, at that time, like no one was talking about traceability, and it was a bit like, what can traceability be used for in the electronic sector? The second one, there was the development of a prototype. Those who haven't seen it can go on keepelectronics.com. Then you have access to the prototypes. Those who want to play with the prototype, I should have had this on the slide, but we have put open version on GitHub. So if you want to, with a non-commercial license, so if you want to have access to the code of the prototype, you're more than welcome to on GitHub. I can put the links after I've talked in the chat for that. So there was a lot about this, and now we are in the piloting phase, and we are in trace for value then. KEEP, I hope that in the project it's quite flat organization. I mean, I'm the one responsible with the contact with Vinnova, but I made a triangle because my name is so damn long, but we are very on an equal level. None of this in the project would happen without the participation of these 2 other guys. So we are 3 leading the project. Out of the 60-something organization in Trace for Value, there is 23 now organization in KEEP. We have 20 from Sweden, 1 from the US, 1 from the Netherlands, and 1 from the UK, and it's people all across the value chain. They are in alphabetical order on my slide, but so there's no, the first one is not more important than the last one. It just starts with A. And this is where I will stop my presentation, because so this is how we have organized the work. I have the feeling that I'm repeating a lot of the same things in between the meetings, but there's a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of discussion. So at the moment, what we are doing, we are wrapping a little bit things up. So we have 2 pilots on the production and sales. Clas Ohlson has marked 3 of their it's solar cell lamps for outside with QR codes. So this is one of the pilot, and the other pilot is collaboration between PiiA and Mouse Trapper, so Trapper Data. They are marking their ergonomic keyboards with also QR codes, and PiiA is doing the app that you're showing, that the information that is shown when you're scanning the code. So this took some time to put in place, and at the moment, basically, the thing, like, it's collecting data. So we are not yet in the wrapping up and finishing touch of this. We have a new pilot that I cannot mention now, more in December, that is starting. And on the reuse and recycling side, also, there is a lot of work. So it's there's a lot of ILOs of companies that are working together, and we hope that we will be able to kind of wrap things up in a nice package with a nice bow on top, that everyone will feel that there's some continuity in this. So this is a bit where we are now today. So yes. Question.
Will you also be joining this opening thing where we're going to go camping to get the products with the with the QR codes on with Jenny. We'll have a joint venture with Blippa and Claes Olsson and
Yeah, that would be fun.
Kapol Manimeko. That'll be cool, right?
Yes, that would be fun.
And then we have a bit more from Chalmers Industriteknik, right?
Yes,
Vilhelm?
that's correct. Thank you, Malin. And in the interest of time, I'll also be brief. So you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Chalmers Industriteknik, we also coordinate work package 2 in Trace for Value, which is called Integration and Sharing of Information. And this is work that Sophie and I do together. So the overall idea of the work package is that, well, we all realize and know that if we want to trace and enable sustainable products, we got to handle a lot of data. And we need to handle these at various points in supply chains. We need to share them between different types of actors and with different technical solutions. But it would be interesting and useful to coordinate on technical solutions. Well, I mean, we would rather not want to reinvent the wheel every time for different products and sub-projects and so on. So the question here in work package 2 is whether we can study what different work packages do, whether we can provide recommendations, find common lessons learned, and provide some support to think and plan ahead. Let's see here. Okay, and we actually work along two lines here in this project. The first one is that we investigate how the traceability projects use and share their data. Also the projects that are up and running right now and how they plan ahead. So we look at what technical solutions they have. We try to find common similarities across the projects and also note and observe when they are different. And the idea here is that we should help the work packages to try to be proactive about which technical solutions they investigate. And the second part is that we also look into if there are any needs for traceability projects to handle data regulation. And data regulation was mentioned several times in this meeting. The most sort of poster child, well-known example of data regulation is actually called the GDPR in the EU, because EU takes privacy very seriously, and processing of personal data is important to get right. This may be relevant for a few of these traceability projects, but there are also other sort of regulatory regulations that are already in force or that are coming into force, like the Eco Design Sustainable Products Regulation, the DPP, that seems to be coming into force next year. But we also have a few other acts, such as the EU Data Act, the AI Act, and so on. So what we also look out for and try to help with is whether work packages need to think about regulations ahead of time. So how do we actually go about this? Well, we do 30 to 60 minute structured interviews. We have a couple of questions about where the projects come from, where they are now, and how they sort of see themselves going forward. We have interviewed 3 projects so far and studied the sort of regulations surrounding them a bit, but we also have upcoming planned interviews, and the idea is to summarize this in an analysis and report. Brief preliminary findings is that technically the projects are of course very different. They implement circularity and data handling at with various solutions at different points in the supply chain, and data sharing seems to look kind of different for different stakeholders. But one interesting finding is that personal data seems to emerge in nearly every project or setting that we see, and it could be useful here to think about which legal basis there is for handling personal data. One of the interesting possibilities in the GDPR is that it's possible to and permitted to handle personal data if other legislation requires so, which seems to be the case for digital product passports, for instance. But we are thinking about that with the different work packages. Right, that was a brief update, so I'll stop here. Thank you, and feel free to contact us.
Super, thank you, Vilhelm. And of course, there's a important functionality within the project to sort of be the bridge between the different sub-projects, so that we really ensure that we bring opportunities and experience between the different sectors. So that's great. Thank you. We're speeding on to the next presentation. And now we're going to hear from Hanna. Are you still with us, Hanna? I hope so.
Oh,
yes.
yes, I am.
Excellent. How has this day been for you so far?
It has been really exciting. I am so impressed by all the different presentations that we've seen. I'm just sorry. I'm trying to see what I'm sharing here. Do you see my presentation?
Not in presentation mode.
You see that in presentation mode as a wait. I will check. No.
Yes,
Better.
Great.
No, thank you, Malin, for letting me come here and introduce ourselves a little bit. My name is Hanna Paradis, and I am the process leader of a project, a 10-year initiative called Climate Leading Process Industry, or Klimatledande Processindustri, as it is in Swedish. And together with me, I also have Hedvig Pollack, who's also listening. We are two main figures here. And we are a 10-year initiative with a vision to actually strive for a fossil independent and world-leading industrial region. And with the region here, we mean the West Sweden region. So we are actually a regional project trying to push forward innovation and innovation strengths within this region where I am situated, at least since I am based in Gothenburg. And we are focused on renewable and recycled raw materials. And with that comes that we have a focus to work with industrial transformation and transition in the process industry. So we work mainly with the transformation connected to both materials and fuels that are produced here for in this region that we are situated in. We do have the largest petrochemical industrial cluster here in Sweden, in Stenungsund, and we also have the main refinery capacity in Sweden are also situated here on the west coast. And as you all know, and it's a very known fact, we are also the companies here are also among the largest emitters of CO2 that we have in Sweden. So by doing changes here, we are able to have a large effect on the emissions that comes from our country, at least. So we are deeply into, sorry, my phone is ringing. That away. So with this area that we are talking about now, we do think that this is a profound prerequisite to actually succeed with circularity within these sectors as well. And these sectors are providing materials and base chemicals for all the projects that we are actually have talked about here before, from these companies, the different base base molecules to actually create textiles or create products comes from. So these companies also need to be a part of this development. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our initiative. I'm going to definitely short it down because we are closing into lunchtime. But we are a 10-year initiative, and we are financed by Vinnova and Västra Götalandsregionen, and also the number of companies, about 50 companies that is a member, that are members of the Västsvenska Kemi- och Materialklustret. And these are the companies, so it's definitely a collection with the base chemical industry, but also academia and municipalities, etc. So we are both a networking arena where we have thematic working group meetings, project pitches, policy labs, etc. We also have our own small project portfolio, and that was what Malin referred to in the beginning, where we can see that we sponsor small seed money projects or pre-studies that are that our companies are interested in exploring new areas, etc. As of now, we have previously we have sponsored about 30 seed money projects since 2019 in a number of different areas. Now we have 7 ongoing projects. They are based on member interest, and their meaning is to generate larger project developments in stage 2. So what we can see and what we would like to see to be and that we have gotten a chance to introduce ourselves here, Malin, is to see if we can have further development and cooperation with you guys in the future. We see, let's see, no, it's not working. We see that we could use co-creation in projects for further fundings, because these challenges definitely need to be solved in all parts of our value chains or all parts of our systems. We could see that the for example, the digital product passes are labeled to a specific product as of now, but you need to actually collect data from the entire product chain, also through also all the way back to the materials that they were made up from the beginning. So are we able to combine our different strengths and partners in new initiatives? And yes, we hope so. As of now, we have at least 2 different discussions with PiiA and Trace for Value to see if we can expand, for example, to verify sustainability information through a value chain or sustainability communication. How could we do that in a way that could be certified and also verified by the market? So we have that kind of projects that we hope to get financed here during the upcoming months. And we also have some discussions with Karin's friends at Ragn-Sells about circular value networks. But if you are interested in ideas on corporations, projects and partnerships, so please feel free to get in touch. Thank you, Malin.
That's great. And I feel the urge to come to Gothenburg soon again, because we have so much things to discuss. And I would really just like to invite again now, if you feel like this is an area where you would like to contribute and work with us, you're so welcome, because we need some more manpower to get these projects going also. And from the PiiA side, we are very willing to invest strategic funding to get more projects going within this region and within the sort of chemical and refinery branch. So I would really be looking forward to more discussions and contacts here. Thank you so much for coming here today, Hanna and Hedvig. It was great to see you. But stay tuned, because we also have Kenneth, who has another open invite and a little bit of an update on traceability and waste, right, Kenneth?
That is correct. And I will try my best to choose the right window, which is always a challenge. Let's see if I see what is seen on the screen at the moment. You see the traceability and waste. Is that a correct screen as you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I'll try to make my best to make it brief. I was presenting this, as Malin said earlier, with more of a concept idea stage. Now we're getting into something looking like a project within the trace of value. And very, very briefly, where we're coming from in this is like three different factors, which is, of course, waste criminality, which is where we really started, because it's getting bigger by the day. And also the fact that we have regular critique in Sweden from the Commission on the circularity in Sweden, where we actually at the moment are significantly lower, in their words, than the average EU levels. So we want to do something about that. And also we had some very specific instructions to our agency, Swedish EPA, that we must sort of get our act together, because we have a lot of digital systems on the waste area which don't basically speak to each other, and we need to get something coordinated for this. So all those things together took us into starting looking at it. We also found a report very recently, actually in May, from the OECD. I won't go into the details, but it's highlighted the fact that if you want to use a very good way to get a hold of waste criminality is through digital technologies, and specifically to help, because as in everywhere else, if you want to find the criminals, so to speak, the bad actors, there's always a minority, fortunately. But how to find them? If you have 96% of all the actors are very good ones, but how to find the 4%? And that's where we try to focus on how to find the needles in the haystack for the compliance authorities. That is basically what we're trying to find, to simplify for the compliance authorities to identify where the problems are, so they can dive deeper into that by using their resources in the right fashion. And very shortly, just a preliminary list of what kind of scenarios we're looking at. Won't go into that. The functionality, as we're looking at or thinking about it at the moment, is in the bottom of it all, of course, is a system that monitors and analyzes the both components together. First of all, you need to get the traceability to be able to monitor the waste flows, which is a challenge in itself, of course. And then on top of that, of course, not to be underestimated, is the analysis part, how to find the needles in all those waste flows. But not to be forgotten and not to be underestimated is also the possibility to, if we collect all this data on the waste stream, what can we use it for? Well, today, with the challenge of circularity, one of the biggest parts of the circularity is that we don't have an overview. We don't have a confident data to know where are the waste streams going and how much is circulated and how much is incinerated and so on. So we want to use the data within this project to create a national overview that we lack today. Yes, and we also have, in terms of this traceability as a general, is that as today we have what I would call a waste chasm. We can trace possibly as products and materials, but then it comes what I call a waste chasm. We have no traceability when it becomes waste and something happens to it and we don't really know, to be able to bridge that waste chasm. And what I also would say is that sounds very good, but there's always a but. And there's a number of factors in this which complicates things. And for example, the standards, and here we are looking at or thinking and we should really connect to the car in digital twins, because this is really the thing, the standards and things. And there's another things we need to overcome and able to reach what we want to do. And what we've landed in is that we really need an exploratory phase, which is what we're looking at now, to involve all the central actors, because we as an agents, we can't just, we've done that before, it's usually not very fortunate to make a system of our own that the actors you use. We need to get realistic solutions on how to realize this tracking, and which will work in practice, which also will have an acceptance by the industry, which is very important, to not start something which will not be used in real life. And together we want to work with all the actors, all the tech choices made, and in the end have real live working proof of concept central components, not a fully blown system in the outcome, but really the central components that are the most challenging, the most critical. The rest is, I mean, just the normal IT systems, which we could use at a later stage. So that's what we're trying to, that's what we want to get the outcome of this project, is to have this kind of components which really work together. And at the moment we have work packages that we're looking at, which we are together with all the actors, but we want to have as many actors as possible. And the way to collaborate is you could do it either by, I mean, basic, you're a partner in this, but we also want to set up a user panel, which is that any part, whichever if you are the waste holder, the waste generator, so to speak, you have a stake in this, or the industry which transports the waste or makes something useful of it, recirculates it, and so on. There's a number of different slots in this where you can cooperate with this project that we're setting up. So I hope for interest in this, because I think there's a quite promising possibility in this. Thank you.
And that's about it. So thank you so much and have a great lunch.